Hello ជំរាបសួរខ្ញុំឈ្មោះពៅសុធាហើយនៅថ្ងៃនេះខ្ញុំនៅជាមួយ Director Micheal Siv គាត់ជាខ្មែរហើយនឹងតិចទៀតគាត់លេង film ផកគាត់គេហៅ Daze of Justice no LA Liftoff Film Festival. Micheal Siv, thank you so much for being here. You have a film showing today, is that right?
Yes.
Daze of Justice.
ជំរាបសួរ ជំរាបសួរ
Thank you so much for sparing some time for us today. So last time we met, it was at your feature here in LA also, is that right?
Yes, the Los Angeles Asian American Film Festival in LA. And now we're in LA in two different venues.
Now you're back in LA, and I remember seeing it the first time and thinking, I have to bring my mom to this. So thank you so much for bringing it back and letting me bring my mom to it.
Oh, that's part of the message is having second generation and first generation start a dialogue. That you're the perfect example of what the film is about.
Great, thank you. Yes, and I think my mom and her generation are also a huge target for that. So tell me, how did you start this film idea? How did this all begin?
So I was working for this place called New American Media, and just because I'm Cambodian, they asked me to go cover this event in San Jose, and that's when I met Dr. Lakana Nu and what she was doing with these survivors in terms of getting them to try to participate and help prosecute the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, which sounded okay, but that wasn't the thing that drew me to trying to make a film. What drew me was that these survivors in San Jose, and Omzapani was one of them, they all got up on stage or in public, and they talked about what happened to them. And that just to me that I never seen that, because my mom, for example, never talked about it. And so for as a filmmaker, and knowing that they were going to Cambodia to help prosecute the Khmer Rouge, not only as a filmmaker but also as somebody that grew up, a part of this genocide, that I had to kind of feel like an obligation almost to go do it or do something about it, right?
So you were going to document the Khmer Rouge trial, and there were Khmer Rouge survivors that were going there to witness what was going on. Is that right?
Not only to witness, but also to help prosecute. And so Lakana, or Dr. Lakanu, helped them submit the application. And if they were accepted, they could go back and help prosecute these Khmer Rouge as witnesses or as civil parties. And most of them were civil parties in the film. And so that's how the film got started. It's the motivation of, first generation survivors talking about it in public and willing to go back to Cambodia to face the very criminals that, made them suffer for probably 40 years of their lives.
When did this start? When did filming start?
I think it started 2011, middle 2000, that summer 2011, and we just finished it early this year.
Wow, so 5 years. 5 years of documenting.
5 years. I think we tracked Lakana and the survivors just overall, not just the ones in the film, but people in Long Beach. I remember, one of them had cataract surgery, and Lakana mobilized them to walk around all over Long Beach, talk to other survivors, eating noodles in noodle shops and asking them to participate. And of course, some were still scared, but just the idea that they're 80 years old walking around Long Beach, signing petition and encouraging other survivors to do it. That to me is a story itself. It's not in the film, but that's what led me to try to track Lakana even more and go into Cambodia with her. And of course, as you know, the story really shifted.
Yes, there's a huge shift to the story. Can you tell us a little bit about what exactly that shift was?
So one day, I got on the phone with Lakana, and she says, "Hey, Mike, I'm going to Cambodia." I said, "Okay, great, I'll be there." She goes, "But wait a minute. I'm going to Cambodia, but I'm going to Khmer Rouge village." So I said, "What are you talking about? Khmer Rouge village? I thought we were going to a trial." She goes, "Well, part of my research is also understanding not just survivors, but also, trying to get into the mind of how the Khmer Rouge think and live." To tell you the truth, I almost wanted to say, well, that's not what I want to do.
Outside the scope of...
Yeah, I'm not interested in no Khmer Rouge stuff. But, as filmmakers or as someone telling the story, you got to commit to what the subjects want to do. So we followed Lakana, and somehow we ended up in one of the worst part of Cambodia. It's northern, it's called Samlot or whatever, northern part of next to Thailand. and there were no roads to go to these villages. I mean, we almost fell. We almost, the trucks can't even get through some of the roads, and sometimes we would have to ride on a bike, or the truck would go underwater and all. I mean, it's crazy.
With all your gear?
Yeah, I mean, I was literally traveling with her, and she was in a motorcycle with Teddy, who's her assistant, and I'm shooting the camera like this, right? And
wow.
So it's pretty dangerous, and I think it made sense. Yeah.
Did it take a lot of convincing? Because I'm hearing this, we're going to go to Khmer Rouge village, and you're like, no. Tell me about the convincing process. Was Dr. New, I mean, I've seen this film and I can see exactly how convincing Dr. New is. She's extremely persuasive. So would you say that it was a lot of convincing on her part, or was it, did it just seem like the natural thing to do?
No, I think I'm like her. I think we want to resolve issues in our own ways. I think she has her own approach and I have my own approach. And I think I'm just saying it at the moment as somebody that grew up with these horror stories. Khmer Rouge did this, they massacred.
Were you afraid going into?
Of course, heck yeah, I was scared. I was terrified. When I saw people, when we were at some Khmer Rouge town and I see soldiers with guns, I'm like, oh man, I gotta hide my camera. So I literally took the big camera and I put it in my pocket, and I took the small one out to pretend I'm a tourist. That's how dangerous it was.
Was there any moment where you actually thought you were in serious danger?
Yes, during the interview when one of them, of course, I cheated the shot. He says not to film him, and he's a high-ranked officer. But I put the camera down, I recorded his voice, and he, in the film, he heard it, and he goes, "Hey, what the hell is that?" I mean, I flipped out because one, he didn't want me to film him, and two, we had a white camera guy. He kept staring at the white camera guy because he's an American. They don't trust foreigners. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, but we were lucky because he was only by himself. If he had his crew or his whatever clan, I think we would have been in deep trouble. But fortunately, Lakana was there, and we had some people that were very good in persuasion that, we're not here to expose you. We're not here to try to, get you in trouble or anything like that. We just want to find out the truth. So I think as a team, we all kind of calmed him down. And so that made me feel much better. But during that moment when he said, "Hey, what the hell is that?" I'm thinking,
heart pounding.
Yeah, I'm thinking, that's the end of everything. But a lot of moments like that, but for whatever reason, luck, or it's the right time, or maybe Lakana was a female. Mm-hmm. I think she was a female and she was a scholar, that she got away mm-hmm. with a lot of stuff. If it was me, they would have already kicked him out, they would already said get out, or something bad would have happened.
Were you speaking Khmer while you were there, trying to negotiate things to do or getting your way in terms of filming them? Were you able to communicate?
No, I acted like I'm a foreigner. Because I'm bald, I got earrings.
Did they know you were Khmer though? Did you ever drop that, "Listen, I'm Khmer"?
No, not at the moment. Like I think most of them thought I was either Japanese or Chinese. I mean, until of course Lakana then busts me out. "Oh, he's Cambodian." Then mm-hmm. I'm like, "Oh, Jiripsua."
Why do you felt like you had to hide that you're Khmer because you thought it would be less safe to expose that you're Khmer?
I think for whatever reason. I mean, I have my experience before with Spencer, who did a documentary on me, is that when foreigners are there, somehow they're not as intimidated. Mm-hmm. But when you're Cambodian, and especially being male for whatever, I feel like they won't communicate with me, mm-hmm. right? So I think like for Lakana, she's a scholar, I think, right? And then she's a woman, and so they're less intimidated. But I feel like if I just hide behind the camera a little bit until she does her job, because at the end of the day, it was about Lakana and the survivors. It wasn't about me. I didn't intend to be part of the film. Mm-hmm. I thought she would be the narrator until the film shifted when Pang comes along. Like when we interviewed Pang, I didn't say nothing in the beginning.
And who is Pang for our viewers?
Pang is the son of Kang Il. I think everybody knows him as the guy that ran To Slang prison that used to be a school, the infamous torture chamber that's in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. He is responsible. He was on trial for the first case and was convicted to life in prison, and all kinds of stuff has happened where he's now, I don't know, gets 19. I don't know what the logistics are, but it's very complicated.
So the father's in prison, and the son, from what I remember, you stumbled upon the son of the convicted Khmer Rouge leader.
Right.
And that was not part of the plan. That was not your initial mission in starting the documentary, is that right?
Everything with this was all Lakana. Like, it was, whatever she wanted to do, we had to go. And she wanted to go Khmer Rouge, we went. We did interviews, and Pang comes along, and it's just all like whatever Lakana wanted to do, we had to kind of go with the flow.
Did Professor New know of, and maybe I should ask her, but did Professor New know of Pang before going into Khmer Rougeville?
That's part of the mystery. As a filmmaker, I didn't know what the heck was going on, but Lakana was communicating with somebody that was showing her around, and he would just take us to interviews, but he would not tell us who they were. Mm-hmm. So I was even like on Lakana's case. I'm like, hey, I don't know if I want to go to places. I don't know who these Khmer Rouge are. I mean, it could be anybody, right? So again, like we're really fortunate that things didn't happen in very bad, negative ways. But like Pang, we stumble upon him. He comes out of nowhere. Then the informant tells Lakana, oh, he's Dutch's son. Then I'm like, oh. But but you don't have time to think. I think that's the whole thing. Is like, oh, he comes, she does an interview, and I'm filming him. I have my perspective. I have to separate myself or remove myself as a filmmaker versus Michael, who grew up as a son of survivor. Because as a son of survivor, I wanted to kick his behind, because he was arrogant. He was naive to say that his father was he did all this thing because he was ordered. I'm like, yeah, right, full of crap, full of BS. That's Mike as the son of a survivor.
Did you have a chance to actually talk to him about things, or were you just taping the entire time?
During that moment, I said it's Lakana's. It's her journey. Like she needs to figure out survivors and whatever Khmer Rouge, and it's not mine. It's not my story. It's not my journey. So I didn't. So during those interviews and stuff, I kind of just. I mean, maybe I asked him about, hey, you want a beer? But I don't ask him any more than that. I kind of let Lakana take toll of everything, or take whatever she needed to do.
Wow. Well, I can tell you that film completely moved me, and I'm so grateful to be able to be here and ask you these questions. Is there anything that you would want other survivors to know based upon your experience in making this film and interacting with Pang and the survivors and their experience with Pang?
I mean, it's a lot. What I want to really say is that we have in the film we have three very courageous survivors. I'm pretty sure there are many throughout the U.S. and even in Cambodia, but in this film we have three that are willing to go beyond just speaking up in public. They're willing to go back to Cambodia to face the very criminals that changed everybody's lives, and they're willing to not only do that but to encourage other survivors to do it. And I think the message for other survivors is, it's hard to say that everybody should be like them, but it's time for some sort of change, because it's passed on to our generation, and what can our generation do next to help the future generations, right? So like my mom would never still talk about it. Like even when she watched the movie, she says, you're not making any money, but she's missing the point, And maybe it's because the film half of it's in English and she doesn't understand. But what I wanted to do is honor these survivors. The one that are willing to go beyond just wanting to talk about the story, but doing more. I mean that's one side. But of course there's a lot of things that the film offer, but we don't have time.
Right. Well, maybe more time will come after the huge success of this film. I think it's fantastic. I'm so excited for my mom to watch it in a few minutes. Thank you so much for bringing it back and for doing all the work with the survivors and Dr. New and putting yourself and your life in danger for all of us. Thank you so much. And
thank you for having us.
And thank you for this interview. So
Appreciate
we're looking forward to watching your film in a few minutes.
Cheerio.